welcome to Love Survives Grief, a podcast about surviving grief. My name's Shaun.
I'm Stephanie, his wife. We are two regular old people. Shaun is what do we call you? A blue collar? Is that what you are? Blue collar worker?
Truck driver, yeah.
So truck driver. I'm a school teacher and mom to 3. Obviously, Shaun's dad to 3. But we just wanted a space for us to be able to talk things through about grief and share our journey through it all, as well as give people, listeners, we'll have guests eventually, but also an outlet to share their story and to feel a connection to people who have kind of been thrust onto this really kind of crappy path.
It is. It's very horrible.
You know.
We met in 2010, and Stephanie had just lost her dad.
Yes, we met in that summer, I believe. Yep, that summer. My dad had passed away in February of that year. He passed away very suddenly and tragically with some hospital mix-up situations going on. And that was really my first experience with loss, with death. I wasn't close to my grandparents. I had one that lived like an hour and a half away, but we weren't close to her. My other ones had all passed away before I was born, or there was one that passed away when I was like 2 years old, but they lived on the other side of the country. I mean, they lived in South Carolina. We're from California. So there wasn't really a relationship there. So yeah, my dad's was my very first experience with it, I guess you could say. And I had just graduated college. I was trying to figure out what exactly I was going to do next. And he was my best friend and my mentor in a lot of situations. I come from a large family. I'm the youngest of 6 kids. So I have a lot of older siblings, but my dad was always kind of my sounding board. I was the most like him. I know you never met him.
I did not.
But anyone still that talks or is in communication, with me says I'm a lot like him. I'm his kind of spitting image in the female form, and I'm not really sure sometimes how to take that.
And from stories I heard, you were the youngest and the most spoiled, the baby.
Okay, well, that's not necessarily true. That is not why I was his favorite. But also, naturally, I think the youngest is spoiled more. But we were a very close-knit family for several years. I grew up very, very poor. We were, like I said, family of 8, including my parents, in rental after rental. We didn't, have like the full safe place or things to fall back on until really I was in high school. And then my dad started his own business with, the help of my oldest sister. He kind of finally had hit, his stride. He knew what he was doing. The business had kind of exploded. However, so did then all of our relationships, unfortunately.
So with success came a price.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, he and I were still close, and I was still close to most of my siblings at that time. But, I'll never forget walking into the hospital. He did pass away at the hospital. Walking in that afternoon. I talked to him thankfully that morning. I was supposed to stop by that morning and see him, and he had called me and he was like, I'm watching Full House, which at the time was like my favorite show ever. And he was like, I'm just sitting here thinking of you. Don't stop by. I was running late to work. And he was like, just go to work. At that time, I was a resource like TA out, like 30 minutes away. And he was like, just go stop by after work. And little did I know that not stopping by that morning would really haunt me really to this day, because I never did get to see him or talk to him again. So, which kind of begs the question of, do you think that people are aware when they are going to die? Like, do you think he knew? I mean, yes, he wasn't healthy by any means. I don't want to give off this persona like he was healthy or anything. He was sick. He was in the hospital for a reason. He had open heart surgery in October, and we're now in February. He never fully healed from that. Yes, the hospital did mix up patients, and you know, there were a lot of check marks along the way of things that went wrong.
No, the ultimate factor that caused him to pass away.
I 100% honest could not tell you. I say that because the day that we had a family friend come over to read his official autopsy, I didn't want to be there. I didn't think in that moment I could listen to it, so I left. And that was like a week later. We had gotten the autopsy, and you know, if you've ever read an autopsy, it's a bunch of medical terms, and you're like, what? And so this family friend, he was a doctor, and he had come over. I mean, I know they didn't have his oxygen on him. I knew they had given him a wrong medication. I know he had sepsis, so I think all of those things, plus, like I said, his heart that never fully recovered from that open heart surgery just a few months prior with wrong medication and things. I mean, there was one situation, this is how, looking back, crazy it is, where we had taken shifts. That's the plus side of a big family. We could all take shifts going up and seeing him and making sure he was never alone during the day. And on one of the shifts, I had gone up there, and he had been complaining of pain and things. And I was with one of my older siblings, and we were trying to get the nurse, and her solution was he needed to drink coffee. And we were like, wait, what? Like that was what they told us he needed to do. Now, mind you, he was very active LDS at that point, and we were like, he doesn't drink coffee ever. Why would that help? And she looked at us like we were crazy, and we looked at her like she was crazy. And in that moment, there was a notebook, and my dad's brother, who lived down in LA, and his wife had come up, and they encouraged us, because they would help take shifts and things, to start writing in this notebook these things that people were saying. So it's almost like we knew something wasn't right. We did have a talk about, do we transfer him to a different hospital? When we were discussing that, we were told he wasn't stable enough. So they had already missed several things prior.
So it was like people were in your family, say your uncle, were preparing for him to die, but just didn't openly talk about it.
Right. Yeah. My uncle had left to go home. You know, he had a family down in Southern California, and he had left. And I want to say he made it home when we called and said that he had passed away. Because it was weird. It was like this whole, he was super sick, and then he was fine. He'd kind of stabilized. And then February 16th, all of a sudden, he was fine. He talked to me that morning. He seemed totally fine. My mom had called me, asked me to bring her lunch on my way up to visit after work. And I walked in, and I could see his room. The curtain was shut, but I could see like his feet. And I could see all of the doctors rushing in, and somebody came to me and then rushed me into the room. And I remember from my uncle, who had passed away years prior, my mom talking about this room in the hospital. And it's like the family room, basically where you can go. This is how my family interpreted it. You can go to scream and cry and everything, but not disrupt the other patients, right? And the other families that are there. And they wanted me in the room. And I knew from my mom talking about it that the room was not good. And if you were shoved into the room, something bad was happening. And that's where they wanted me to go. And I was like, I don't want to go in the room. And I couldn't find any of my family. I knew my mom had been up there. Like, where was she? She was nowhere to be found. Well, she was already in the room. And so I opened the door, and I, chucked the food at her. And I was like, this is what you call a great day? Super dramatic in my 20s.
You said your family's really good at anger.
They are very good at anger. Not so good with any other emotion. But, then I had to call my oldest sister that I was super close to, still am super close to, and tell her. And I don't even know if I ever got the words out. But yeah, so that was my first experience with it. And it was a very morphed experience, because it should not have happened the way that it did. And so how do you ever process that? And my family, although big, we're also very big-headed. And I think you would say, yes, we are. Yeah. we are very stubborn and we don't talk about emotion. So we had this huge event happen, this glue to the family in a lot of ways, gone. And now what? Nobody wanted to talk about anything. Nobody knew what we could talk about because also the hospital knew they were at fault. So we also had this lawsuit right away thrown at us. Like, I'm talking, Dad was still in the hospital and people were coming asking us to sign papers. Like, it was insane how fast all of that was happening to basically silence us. And so from that, it was like, hey, well, if I'm signing this paper, then I can't talk about it. And, you know,
your dad was the leader of the family and your leader's gone. And
right.
You guys did not know how to function without the leader.
Yeah, because my mom was very hot and cold. You never really knew, even prior to this, I mean, especially now, but you never knew what version of her you would get. My dad, I always knew. I always knew what I was going to get from him.
He was stable.
Yeah. So, I mean, now some of my older siblings would not say that same thing because he definitely was a very different dad to me than he was to them. But also, I think that comes with age and maturity and, you know, all of those things. Being the youngest, I definitely saw a very different side. You will hear me and my oldest siblings talk a lot about, did we grow up with the same parents? Because our experiences are so different. One thing about me, though, and I mean, it's taken you maybe 16 years to realize this, is if you tell me to be quiet, I'm going to do the opposite.
Correct.
And that's kind of, again, where this podcast, I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of being quiet. I'm tired of feeling like I can't talk about things. From my dad, from, you know, your grandma had passed away before I met you. You never really wanted to talk about that.
I didn't know how to talk about it. They didn't know how I felt about it.
What about now? Like, do you feel like you, looking back, handled your grandma's death well, or?
Absolutely not, no. And a lot of it had to do with where I was in my life. I was lost. Addiction, alcohol. And I just numbed my feelings.
Were you into the addiction as deep as you were prior to your grandma's passing, or did that kind of fuel more of it to numb emotion?
Both. I think my addiction was at the highest it ever was before she passed away.
Because you lived with them for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. In my 20s.
I mean, your grandma was kind of your stand-in mom because your mom was a nurse who worked crazy long hours.
Yeah, my parents weren't good parents at all. They didn't teach me and my siblings how to become a productive human being in society.
Well, I think that's also the opposite of me, right? You're the oldest. Mm-hmm. So I do think that kind of goes back to like what I was saying with my siblings. They would say I had very different parents than they did. Your younger sisters might say they were great parents because they were very different by then. That's correct. Because when I met your parents, I would say they were great, you know.
They were good grandparents.
They were amazing grandparents. Yeah. And I think a lot of that was trying to fix the past.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It
was their do-over.
They were trying to make up for everything that happened in our childhood.
Yeah. Because I can remember calling, I mean, we moved to Utah and being like, hey, I need to fly home. My best friend's mom has passed away. And within hours, they were out here to watch the kids. Yeah. Like, they were incredible grandparents.
Yeah.
And so the version I ever knew of them was them as grandparents. Yeah. And so for me, I'm like, no, they were incredible. Also, the dysfunction of what my family became was your grandma, because my dad was my first experience with death. Was your grandma your first one?
My second. I was really young. I was 7th grade. I lost a really good family friend. It was my dad's best friend's son, and I was pretty close to him. We had a lot of fishing trips, a lot of sleepovers. So that was my first, but my grandmother was my first real family member. You know,
how'd your family handle that? Did anyone talk about it? Was it just like, if we don't, because I feel like my family was, if we don't talk about it, it's almost like it didn't happen or didn't happen the way it did. Right. You could, like, that's just how I felt. Like, nobody wanted to sit down and be like, hey, how are you guys processing things?
Yeah.
Which is
absolutely not. No, my parents did not help us go through the emotions of grief. They did not, because I don't think they understood it themselves, nor did they want to understand it.
Was your dad still in addiction at that point? Because your
No,
dad was
he was
also an
not.
addict.
He was not. No.
He was not. Okay.
But in the addiction world, I'd call him a dry drunk because he.
Can you explain that to me? Who
he
is an innocent party over here?
quit drinking alcohol, but still had a lot of the characteristics of an alcoholic, and refused to work on himself, his emotions, how he dealt with life.
Okay.
So therefore, if he couldn't do it himself, how would he be able to teach me, his oldest and only son, how to become a man?
So I have a question about your mom. She was a NICU nurse for 40 years?
Close to it.
Close to 40, if not more. The version of your mom that I knew was very monotone, very non-emotional. Now, this is her mom that we're talking about, like your experience. Like, it is her mom. Can you remember, was your mom always like that version that I knew, the no emotion and things? Or prior to her mom's death, was she more into her emotions, more animated? Because you know the version I'm talking about of your mom.
Correct.
Like, she just...
That started when my dad was at his highest of his addiction. So when I was...
highest or deepest?
Deepest, yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. The highest peak of his addiction.
Okay. She just shut off.
And I was probably 12 or 13 years old. So, just becoming a teenager. When I was a young kid, I'd say age 10 below, she was a really good mom. And lots of emotion, lots of hugs.
But I think it's important to note, too, she had her mom there.
Yeah.
So it is almost like two different versions.
Correct.
Of it. Now, did she keep the addiction hidden from your grandparents?
She tried, but I think everyone knew.
Because you moved in with them.
It was never a topic of conversation.
And I should say you moved in, meaning you yourself. Your family didn't. You moved in.
I think everyone in the family knew that there was an issue.
With your dad?
Yeah, nobody wanted to address it. There was points where my aunt, her oldest sister, and the oldest of the family, tried to get her to open up and even was going to help her leave my dad because she had experience with divorce as well. But that nothing ever came for that.
Did they have that conversation?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But my mom just shut it down. Absolutely was not an option for her.
I can see that. Your mom also didn't like uncomfortable things.
Oh, absolutely. She hated confrontation.
Yeah.
So she did not want to entertain that.
Even things that wouldn't be confrontation. Do you want an apple or an orange? Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Like there was just no decision making.
Correct.
Ever.
Correct. Fear controlled her life big time.
Yeah.
She lived her life full of fear, which was sad.
Yeah, I think losing her mom definitely helped shape that even more. I mean, help not in a good way by any means. And then all of a sudden, if her mom was her safe point from your dad, although he was in recovery at that point of his addiction, her mom was still her guide, and fall person. And now she's gone too. So, but I think it's very interesting that, my dad's situation, your grandma's situation, nobody talks about it. Nobody wanted to. And that's kind of why I wanted to sit down and just lay it all out there.
And I had the exact same experience as you when my grandma passed away, that the family kind of just fell apart. As far as my grandmother was the leader of the family, and she forced everyone to get together. But it wasn't a force. Like, as a child, I don't know, I can't speak for my uncles and aunts and my parents, but as a child, as a grandchild, it's what we did.
It was like the obligation.
And
but you knew it and you were fine to do.
Yeah, it felt good. Like, it's what we wanted to do. We wanted to go to my grandparents' house and get together. If for anything,
a little escape for parents, right? Yeah,
and to hang out with my cousins.
Yeah.
So I don't know from my uncle and aunt's perspective if it was something they dreaded, but that's just what we did. We got together birthdays, holidays, Christmas, Mother's Day, Father's Day, all kinds of holidays. And it was multiple times a year I would spend with my uncles, aunts, cousins.
Which I think is important to know. You hate holidays now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. especially Christmas.
Yeah. And that was your grandma's
my
like
grandmother made Christmas huge.
Right.
And I still talk about it to this day with my cousins that, Christmas was amazing. My grandmother made it the best holiday in the world.
So isn't it interesting that your experience with your grandma, my experience with my dad, we didn't know each other back then. We took very different approaches. I almost felt honored that I could continue celebrating things in his honor or for him. And I still wanted to do it. I mean, to this day, we celebrate his birthday. You know that. Like, I make his favorite cake. We have his favorite ice cream. We talk about it. We have his favorite dinner to this day.
Yep.
Where you are like, nope, I hate that holiday. It's taken a very long time and me saying, hey, we have little kids. You've got to kind of get it together. You've got to show up for Christmas.
Absolutely.
So
I can remember years with you that absolutely I didn't want to be a part of it all. I just sat there.
Well, when we were
sat there going through the emotions, but mentally I was not there.
When we were first together, you would get very drunk on those days, which, is a huge part of numbing that feeling.
Absolutely.
So it just brings me back to why are we sitting here now? And it's because this is something that needs to be talked about because people need to have an outlet. I'm not an expert. I'm not a therapist. I'm a fourth grade elementary school teacher.
I'm a truck driver.
But what I do know is how it's affected me. I know how it's affected my siblings and my mom and my own kids.
Just
and
the family structure as a whole.
Yeah. But also, even outside of that, death has affected my friendships. It's altered everything in my life.
It affected my career.
Yeah.
For sure.
Everything has just been affected by this grief. And if we don't talk about it, if we don't connect on a personal level with others, can you ever really move past it? Can you ever really process what has happened to you? And that's kind of that rhetorical question where society's great. Individuals are great when you can connect on a personal level. And if you're just keeping everything quiet and bottled up, are you really connecting?
Absolutely not.
Are you processing anything? And then I think too, my dad didn't want me to be miserable. For one of his birthday parties, he put on an entire talent show and we had to serve everyone dinner for 60 plus people. That's what he wanted to do for his birthday. So we were at the church. He did a spaghetti dinner. He did his little talent show, which, mind you, he was not funny. He was my level of funny. And my students would tell you, I'm not funny, but I laugh at my own jokes all the time. Definitely. But that's what he loved to do. He loved to make other people feel better or laugh or forget about something. So he didn't want me to be miserable.
He enjoyed life and he wanted everyone around him to enjoy life.
For sure.
So
and I look back.
That's the goal of this podcast, is to help people but ourselves as well enjoy life and learn how to enjoy life after experiencing.
But you also have to go through the dirty. You have to go through the struggle.
It's a process.
We're not blind or naive to the fact that there were not some very dark days, years, honestly. Yeah. And for us, my dad in 2010, and then I was kind of okay for whatever okay is, right? But there wasn't any other death or anything until years later. But then I tell you what, when 2019 came, I felt like we could never catch a break after that.
What was 2019?
2019 was when our son passed away.
Our son, Cash. 7 months old.
Yeah. In the very end of that year. And I just felt like we could never catch our breath after that. It was Cash, it was your grandpa, it was your dad, it was COVID, it was your mom, it was, even down to our poor dog. Yeah. And not only did I feel like I couldn't catch a break or catch my breath, but I felt like our other kids couldn't. And everything was just shattered everywhere. Absolutely. And which piece do you pick up first? And I think the answer is your own piece. I can't pick up your piece until my piece is picked up. I tried to have for a long time because I'm also a fixer.
Yeah. So from 2019 to 2024, it was just nonstop traumatic events.
Is it sad that last year,
entire family,
I remember celebrating last year that we made it a year with no death? How sad is that?
I look at it as a blessing.
Well, but I'm saying like, and I remember looking at our kids who right now, our older two now today are 14 and 10. And I finally got to look at them last year and say, they don't have to go to a funeral. Yeah. And it was the first time in 6 years that they didn't have to go to one of somebody that was so close to them. Absolutely. I mean, that's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
That is a pretty heavy realization to know that their innocence has been, shattered as well. But I think before we jump into 2019, which will be a huge part of us sitting here and talking throughout the next while, because like we said, 2019 is when I think death hit us very differently. In all the ways. That's when our son passed away very, very suddenly and tragically. But we kind of also need to talk about how even though it maybe wasn't death, it was still grief from 2010 to 2019. We were still in very different forms of survival.
Correct.
And with that, I mean, for me, I was in survival of figuring out obviously my dad's death. I've mentioned that, but my family shattered. Like my siblings, my mom, like there was nothing. I mentioned I came from a big family, but all of a sudden I was talking to one sister. That's it.
Yeah, out of 6.
Like
out of 5. You're the youngest of 6.
Yeah, I'm the youngest of 6.
Out of 5
correct.
Siblings.
There was one. Not even my mom. Like all of that gone, And then here comes this knight in shining armor over here.
Which I tell you all
at
the time.
the time you were not a knight in shining armor.
I tell you all the time. Looking back now, where I am now today, I did not support you as much as I should have.
Yeah, but I don't think you supported yourself either.
Yeah, correct.
I had just come out of a very bad relationship and, I was actually dared to start an online profile, which is where you came from.
Yep.
The night that I created this online profile, you showed up. You wouldn't leave me alone for my messages. But, and looking back, like, I would not be okay if my own children did what I did. Like, you picked me up from and I watch Dateline all of the time, and everything I did should have been a Dateline special. Like,
and what's funny is that was my norm, like, growing up closer to San Francisco.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about how vastly different we are.
We are complete opposites, for sure.
I mean, obviously we have, like, you're the oldest, I'm the youngest. But you think about, like, I grew up very religious, no longer am. You grew up non-religious and have kind of tinkered a little bit in, do I want religion, do I not? I am very firm and know I'm good. But I've never, participated in, how would you say it, extra curricular activities.
What do you mean by that?
I never partook of drugs.
Yeah.
I never, got DUIs. Like I was never the party girl.
Correct.
Ever. I was the book nerd.
Yeah.
And
I grew up in a house with addiction was the norm.
Yeah.
And I raised myself. There was no.
I grew up in a dysfunctional family. I don't want it to seem like my family was by any means functional. They were not functional, but it was a typical hidden religious dysfunctional family.
Yeah.
You know the kind that I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
They show up on Sundays and they look good, but behind the closed doors, there's screaming, there's fights, there's, different forms of abuse and things going on. Yeah. So
I had no rules or discipline.
Right.
My parents, I was the oldest, I was a boy. My dad's theory was, I remember him telling this to other family members, uncles, aunts and stuff, that his theory in raising me was
survival?
I was going to be fine. He's like, I'm not worried about him. He can do whatever he wants. He'll be fine.
Do you think that was because he was in addiction himself?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I grew up in a suburb of San Francisco,
I grew up I like to call it a city.
The Valley. It's the Valley. She grew up in the Central Valley.
I am a Valley girl.
But
and through.
I was allowed at 6th grade. How old would I have been? Like 12, maybe?
Yeah.
I mean,
you think that Brindley.
Yeah.
Our daughter will be in 6th grade.
So yeah, 11.
In August.
I would say 12 probably, though, is the first memory of being able to ride BART, which is a
very
subway.
Scary form of transportation.
It wasn't as scary back then, but it's a subway from the town I lived in all the way into San Francisco by myself. And then I would get off the subway and just go roam the streets all by myself.
Do you know that my parents wouldn't even let me have sleepovers at my sister's house?
Oh, yeah. We were having sleepovers way like 4th grade.
I mean, she's my sister.
Yeah. I was having sleepovers with friends.
Very different upbringing.
And most of the time, the sleepovers were at my house. My parents would go to bed early, and we were just allowed to do whatever
So they weren't aware that there were sleepovers.
Yeah, and we would just steal alcohol from
I don't know if we can still call it a sleepover.
Me and my friends would steal alcohol from my dad and just get drunk at a really young age.
Yeah. No, I was very into school. Yeah. I did the school thing. I did the sports thing when I was younger. High school came around and I was like, I'm going to focus on my studies. I'm going to get good grades. I was National Honor Roll.
Yeah. I barely graduated high school.
I mean, we just
had to go to summer school when you
look
credits.
At our life on paper,
yeah,
there's not much that we have in common.
Complete opposites.
Very, very opposite. But somehow it worked. I mean, down to you are emotional.
Yeah.
I am not. You think it's okay. And it is, right? Okay to show emotion. And
it took a lot of years of therapy, though, to get there.
Yeah.
For the emotional part.
See, and I always stop going to therapy when they're like, hey, we need to address the emotions. I'm like, yeah, I'm good now. Hey, I'm cured.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's like, no, I don't like that part of it. Yeah. Every little aspect that we could be different in, we really are.
We really are.
But somehow it worked. But it took a long time to work.
We've had to find a balance constantly.
I don't even know if fight maybe, create a balance. There were a lot of times. But the one thing that we do have in common is probably the saddest of all of it is death.
Yeah.
And our experiences with death.